Good morning. It's April the 20th, and we are going to continue our AMI assignments this week by celebrating National Poetry Month. I know you've been waiting and anticipating those rhyme me to do some poetry. So I know you've been sitting there thinking, why is she not doing any poetry? Because it's National Poetry Month. I heard you. I'm answering now. So, yes, a week of poetry. Maybe even next week if we really like it. So, this video will go over what are our goals, what's our schedule, and what are we supposed to be doing today, Monday, April 20th, and tomorrow, Tuesday, April 21st. Okay, so again, you are to complete the slides in here. Slides 7 through 11 have assignments on them. They will have the word task on them if you're supposed to do something on that slide. Our goals for this week are to analyze the choices that authors make about how they structure a text. So again, we're looking at poetry, and there are different styles and types of poems. So that's what we're going to be examining this week. We're just going to be doing 3. So just a few, not a whole lot, nothing overwhelming. We're also going to be able to summarize this poem. That's our writing goal for the week, is to be able to summarize and identify what we think the theme of the poem is. So those are our 2 writing things that we need to be able to express by writing, is a summary and what we think the theme is. Those need to be supported by pieces of text, things that we actually find in the poem. And then finally, determine the meaning of words and phrases. Today we're looking at Shakespeare. He's pretty challenging. So we're going to be looking at how does he use words to convey his ideas. Our schedule for this week, Monday through Thursday, we're going to be reading and analyzing poems. Today and tomorrow, we're going to do the prologue to Romeo and Juliet. I'll explain that in just a moment. We're going to do a poem by Anne Sexton called Courage, and another poem called Ithaca on Thursday, at which time you can go ahead and take the assessment. So as soon as we finish going over Ithaca, then you can take your Google assessment on Thursday. If you get all this done earlier for some reason, you can take it sooner. I'll try to get it in there by Wednesday at least. And then Friday, we're going to do journal entries. And this will allow you to express some ideas. It gives you an outlet to write, to practice writing. It's okay to make mistakes in the journal entries. Our goal is to practice writing complex sentences, to practice using words, especially new vocabulary words. All right, so that's our schedule and what we're trying to learn this week. These are things that we're learning: analyzing, summarizing, determining themes, and the meaning of words. All right, so today, Shakespeare. He's my favorite. I'm not even going to lie. So we're not going to read the whole play, Romeo and Juliet. But holy cow, y'all, Chance of a Lifetime is available for you today. You're not going to believe it. So Shakespeare also owned a theater. So he wrote plays, he acted in plays, and he owned a theater. The theater that he owned he was a shareholder, and meaning he was one of many owners, and was called the Globe. And you can go to London today and go to the Globe and watch one of Shakespeare's plays. I mean, it's like a big deal to get to go do that. It's one of the things that you would want to do if you ever went to England. They're making these available for you this month. Wow. So I put the link right here. Today, they are premiering Romeo and Juliet. I cannot express to you what an opportunity this is. If you don't think you're ever going to get to travel to London, this is a great way to get to go see one of their main attractions for free. And you can watch other plays. They're releasing them every week. But today, April the 20th, is the premiere of Romeo and Juliet. So I'm going to encourage you to watch those. I'm probably going to do a little assessment with it. So if you wanted to make up a grade from earlier, I'll put some instructions on how you can redo that grade or add some points to your grade if you want to by watching the play today. And you don't have to watch it today. You can watch it whenever you want to. You can stop it and go back to it. So you could stretch it out over several days. But drama is really meant to be seen, performed. We appreciate it when we read it, but we truly understand it and see what it's really meant to do by watching it acted out on a stage. So that's right here. And again, I'll do this as a separate assignment in there should you want to do that. But to get us warmed up, I have a short little video. Let's watch this real quick, and then we'll talk about our poem, our example poem for today.
So, there's this town called Verona, where two families, the Capulets and Montagues, live. And these families, they really don't get along. In fact, after a street fight between the two families, the Prince of Verona says, "And next time I catch you fighting, that's it. You're out of the city." Now, the Montagues have a son, Romeo, who's all hung up over some chick named Rosaline. And the Capulets have a daughter, Juliet, who they want to marry a dude named Paris. Anyway, Romeo and his friends crash a Capulet party where he meets Juliet and they fall in love. The next day, they secretly get married because that can't possibly end badly. Pretty soon after, Juliet's cousin kills Romeo's best friend in the street. This makes Romeo pretty mad, so he kills the dude right back. Because he was caught fighting with a Capulet, Romeo gets banished from Verona. This leaves Juliet in a pretty bad spot. Her new hubby's out of town, her parents don't know that she's married, and they still want her to get hitched to that Paris dude. So, as you do in that situation, Juliet fakes her death. And the letter that was supposed to make it to Romeo to tell him his wife's just taken a sleeping drug never makes it. So, Romeo, when he hears she's dead, heads back to Verona and visits his wife's tomb. Paris gets in the way, so he kills him too. Then he says something like, "I love you," to Juliet, and then kills himself with poison. Once he's dead, Juliet wakes up. Obviously, she's not particularly pleased about the state of things, so she whinges for a bit and then stabs her. The upshot of all of this is that the two families, the Capulets and the Montagues, figure that fighting is stupid and shake hands and get over it.
Listen, I am very, very sorry.
So, in other words, two households, both alike in dignity. In fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny. Where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured, piteous overthrows do with their death bury their parents' strife.
Okay, so just a little background about Romeo and Juliet gives you what the story's about, and that's exactly what the prologue is meant to do. So let's look at the prologue. And if you noticed something when he read that at the end of the video, it rhymed. That is an important part of poetry. I feel like that's when we think of poetry, most people think of, oh, it's got a rhyme. That's not always the case, but most of the time there is either a rhythm, which we call meter, or there is a rhyming pattern, which we call a rhyme scheme, that we associate with poetry. Again, like everything else, there are pieces that break the rules, all of them. So, all right. Romeo and Juliet, the prologue. This is at the very beginning of the play, and this would have been read to the audience before they began the play. Interesting concept. Why would you tell people the whole play before you even started the play? Why would you do that? Think about yourself. When we go buy a book from the bookstore, I know you do that often, or when we go to the library to check out a book, in fact, we've done this year, we read what the book is about, either on the back cover of the book or on the inside, right inside the front cover. There's a little flap and it'll have the story. Why do we do that? One, it alleviates the stress of having to figure out what's going on as you're reading. To already know, to have a basic structure of the story allows you to find other things while you're reading, to appreciate language more because you're not having to do double duty by figuring out what's going on in the story while also trying to look at how does the author use language. So again, this is a brief overview. So the cool details about the plot, the storyline, are embedded in the play or in the short story or in the poem. So you really have to read for those details, but you already have a basic structure. Like you know what's going to happen. You know sort of who the key players are and what the conflict is. It's the advantage of the prologue. This Shakespearean prologue is written in sonnet form. This is what we call a Shakespearean sonnet. So if you notice, it's got 14 lines. There's 4 here, and 4 here. 3 times 4, let's pull those math skills out, is 12. Plus we have these last 2 lines, these last couple of lines. So that makes 14. So looking at our vocabulary over here, what is a sonnet? It is a 14-line poem. Rhyme scheme, we just said, was the pattern of end, or pattern of, let's say, words at the end of each line. And let's add in the word rhyme, rhyming pattern of words at the end of each line. Does that make better sense? A rhyming pattern of words at the end of each line. Let's come back to that and that theme we've talked about before. This is the lesson or main idea of the text. Usually this is what the author wants you to learn by reading this. Okay, so there's our 14-line poem. That's what a sonnet is. This is the type of poem that we're looking at today. It has a rhyme scheme, which we're going to look at here in just a minute. There's a way that these words are arranged where the end word, the very last word, rhymes. It's called a rhyme scheme. And we'll look at that on the next slide. A quatrain and a couplet, we'll talk about those words in just a minute, and we'll talk about personal pronouns here in just a minute. So, again, if we're looking at a sonnet, this particular style of poem, it's got 14 lines, and those lines are divided into 3 quatrains and a couplet. So, if I said 3 quatrains, Remember when we were counting, we had 3 right here, and there were 3 groups of lines. Those groups of lines have 4 lines in them, and quad typically means 4. So if we broke down this word, quatrain, we would see that this indicates 4 lines. So we have 3 groups of 4 lines. Those 4 lines are called a quatrain. So we have 1 quatrain, 2 quatrains, 3 quatrains. 4 lines equals a quatrain. And then we have a couplet. A couple of lines. 2 lines is a couplet. So that's what we have down here. So we can fill these in. Group of 4 lines. Couplet. 2 lines, right? Ooh, lines. All right, last one on here. Personal pronouns. I know you remember these. Dust them off. We have nouns. Nouns are people, places, or things. Dog, house, lady. Personal pronouns are the words that we use to replace those. So instead of lady, we might say she or her. Instead of the dog, we might say it, or we might say he or she. So those are personal pronouns. We're going to try to find some of those today. And again, they are nouns. They are the subjects usually of sentences of what our main ideas are. Okay. Good use of vocabulary. We need this vocabulary to be able to talk about our assignment for today. So that's why we need that. So we've got a sonnet, which is 14 lines. It has 3 quatrains and a couplet. So these 4 lines always go together. The rhyme scheme of each quatrain is this. A, B, A, B. Notice there's 4 letters here. C, D, C, D. There's 4 letters here. E, F, E, F. There are 4 letters here. And then we have a rhyming couplet. And these 2 letters are the same. So the letters indicate the rhyme scheme. The A words, the words that end with the letter A, rhyme. These lines rhyme. The C's rhyme. The D's rhyme. So if we wanted to look at the prologue and try to identify this rhyme scheme on paper, this is what it would look like. So again, we do have 14 lines. Each of these constitutes the quatrains, and they are going to deal with a different idea in each quatrain. They almost function sort of like paragraphs. And then this is going to be our conclusion. And this is the couplet, the rhyming couplet. So if we look at the rhyme scheme, the A words rhyme. Dignity, this is our first word, and that's why it gets an A. We're going to go through the rest of the poem, and if we can hear any other word that sounds like dignity, it's going to get an A. So dignity seen, mutiny, yes, this is the only one. If we could read through the whole poem and see that this is the only other one that rhymes with dignity, mutiny, okay? Then we go to the next word, and this is seen. So it gets the next letter because A is already taken, so now this is going to be B. Any word that rhymes with seen is going to get a B. So seen, mutiny, no, mutiny is already taken. Seen, unclean, these rhyme. So that's why they get a B there. Foes, again, new word, doesn't rhyme with this A or the B, so it's going to be the C. Any word that rhymes with foes is going to be a C. We only have one, overthrows. But normally we just read through these last words and try to figure it out. So these are going to be C's. And then we have life and strife. Okay? So that's what a rhyme scheme is, and that's how we determine that. And we assign those letters so that we can talk about how he has this really tight rhyme scheme. Y'all, this is hard to write. To have this, rhyme scheme means that these 2 words have always got to rhyme. And sometimes when you're expressing your idea, that's hard to find a word that not only expresses the idea, but also rhymes with the word in the 3rd line. It's kind of hard. Okay. So there's the rhyme scheme. Here's the number of lines. Here's our couplet. Notice these two at the end rhyme, attend and mend, and they're the last lines of the poem. So that's the GG. They're back-to-back rhyming. Okay, so I think we covered everything. We know that this is a sonnet. We know that it has 14 lines. We know it has this rhyme scheme to it. So your task now is going to be to go back through the prologue and figure out a few things. So let's look at the first. Let's read through the prologue together. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. From ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their lives, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-march love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end naught could remove, is now the 2 hours traffic of our stage, the which if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. So this is telling the audience a story, right? And the story takes place in these first 3 quatrains. And if you notice the first quatrain, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go in here and use your cursor, and I want you to highlight things about the setting in the color green. So setting is where and when this takes place. So that's what I want you to do on this first task, is find the where and the when. When is this taking place, and, what place? Okay, highlight that in green. And next, in the second stanza, I want you to highlight information about characters. Who is this really about in the color pink? So go through here and figure out who the sonnet is about, who the play is going to be about. In slide 9, I would like for you to choose emotionally charged words. These are words that convey deep emotion. Okay, so find all the words in these 4 lines that you think convey some sort of deep emotion and highlight those in yellow. And then the last 2 lines, I want you to highlight those examples of personal pronouns. Okay, he, she, it, I, me, you, any of those that you see in here. And then I want you to answer this question. Who are they referring to? Who are these personal pronouns talking about? What people are they talking about? Or things are they talking about? And then your last slide, I would like for you to summarize the whole entire sonnet. Tell me what you think the story of Romeo and Juliet is. And I also want you to include, which I didn't include here, what is the theme? What do you think the lesson's going to be in Romeo and Juliet? What are you supposed to get if you watch the play? And I encourage you to watch the play, guys. It's a great play. It's a great way for you to really go deep into drama and poetry today. If you're planning on going to college, you do need to tangle with some Shakespeare. Watching the plays help you understand the language a little bit better. Shakespeare's not going away. You're going to read him in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, so you could go ahead and sink your teeth in with Romeo and Juliet. Hands down, one of my favorite pieces from Shakespeare. It means something every time I read it. When I was younger, I totally identified with Juliet. As a parent, I can certainly understand how mad Juliet's dad gets at her for being ungrateful. As a teacher, I can certainly see how Friar Lawrence and the nurse, who are very close to Romeo and Juliet, I can understand the dynamics of those relationships. So again, every time I read this or watch this play, I see myself as a different person in it, and I can identify with those characters in there. So again, I'll post that. You're going to go to YouTube and you're going to watch the plays that the Globe is offering for free. Oh my gosh. And I think there's Hamlet. They did last week. I think they did a Hamlet, which is a really heavy, deep play that a lot of times you get as a senior in high school because it deals with some pretty heavy topics. So anyway, all right. So the sonnet today, you have until till Tuesday to do your prologue assignments. And I'll see you on Wednesday for sure with the poem Courage. And I will have a Google Meet today at 11. If you would like to drop in and say hi, you certainly can. Have a great day.